All right, we are recording chapter 6 of The Empire Strikes Back, or what is this technically overall? 19? Yes, 19. Okay. Um, so it covers technically it is the end of the Battle of Hoth. The chapter actually ends on the Falcon's hyperdrive not coming up and 3PO telling them that, yes, it's been damaged, we can't go anywhere. Um, so yeah, that's kind of sort of what it covers. And it is not a good chapter. Oh, I'm sorry, there are just multiple technical issues in it. And I don't mean small technical issues either. The movie definitely does some of this better because it's far more coherent. Um, so for one thing, and this is actually like touching on multiple points. Hobby, who I'm pretty sure he was another pilot, snowspeeder pilot. I think he was the one that actually you see rescuing. Well, is the one that finds Han and Luke. So, it describes him flying back, because the retreat order has been given now. And it is on his snowspeeder is on fire. It's smoking. He can barely see. He is very injured. It's painful for him to do anything. Um, excuse me. And as he's flying, he recognizes how injured he is, and he's like, okay, if I get back there, I might be able to find a medical droid, fix me up, all that. But looking down, he sees all the rebel troops that are also fleeing, while you have at least 3 AT-ATs approaching, that are still just mowing down these guys, all that. So he decides, I'm dying anyway, turns and decides to run into the lead AT-AT. Which, by the way, is the one with General Rios in it. This is why generals, they're in the rear. They're observing. They're not in there. Because losing a general is a big deal. Because Hobby does manage to crash in there, kill everyone in there, and it causes the AT-AT to explode as well. So Rios is dead. Here's a major problem, though. He kills Rios. This happens before the shield generators, the power generators for the base are destroyed. They're never mentioned again. Which means technically we have no reason, we do not know that the power generators were ever destroyed. So they should still have a shield. And potentially other powered defenses. There's also the ion cannon that's still powered. This is a problem. This is a very major problem. I mean, you could even just have that the captain of one of the other AT-ATs, just have him basically radioing, Rios has been killed, I'm taking command, pilot, fire, gunner, fire, destroy the power gen. You could, but nope, none of that there. It is just, Rios' AT-AT is destroyed, the explosion wakes up Luke, and that's it. We now are following Luke. There's nothing about the power generator at all. Also, the ion cannon has been forgotten about entirely. Once it destroyed the one Star Destroyer. So, I mean, it is a very, very poorly described battle because you're dropping all these elements, and it's like, why did you introduce them if you're not gonna use them? It's cinematic, I get that, but this is a book. You can do better in a book. Well, no, let me correct. You can do more in a book. You can do more in a book because I mean, this is what. I'm trying to remember when it started. So the Battle of Hoth ends in chapter 6. When did it start? 4? Because 3 is... Okay. Well, that's actually one thing that I do want to mention as well, which I'm kind of glad is not in the book, because that actually would have been a major problem. But yeah, so it starts with 4, so that's 4, 5, and 6. 3 chapters for this. That's like, what, 10, 15 minutes in the movie? I'm not sure. You could honestly spend another chapter or two, or to make these longer chapters to really fill this out so it makes sense. It's coherent and consistent, but it's not. But actually, there's one thing here that I want to mention, because I was talking to my brother, he's a much bigger Star Wars fan than I am. He asked if there's a deleted scene from The Empire Strikes Back where, as 3PO is going through a hallway in the base, there's a warning label on a door, and he pulls that down and keeps going. The reason why, what's in the deleted scene, is the rebels had captured Wampas, and by tearing that down, now when the stormtroopers are in there and checking all the doors, they're going to open up and the Wampa's going to kill some. Here's why it's a good thing that is in the book. The kid ran into something, Han observed matter-of-factly, and it wasn't just the cold. It's those creatures he keeps talking about, Leia said, looking at the grimly staring Solo. We've doubled the security. They don't know what a Wampa is. Like, they don't have an understanding of what this is. So they obviously can't have any held there. So that is a movie-only thing. And if they had put it in here, then that would mean there was, like, no editing to the book then if they had done that. I'm not even convinced that there was much editing to begin with, because they should have been realizing, the whole rebel snow speeder, it's like, Imperials don't know they're rebel, shouldn't have that in there. Delete that word, the whole, what happened to the power generator? An editor should, somebody like an editor should know and be like, isn't that supposed to be destroyed? Oh, yeah, let me write that sentence. Actually, it would be like 2 sentences. That's it. Anyway, there's more problems. Oh, by the way, I put it in the description, as I recall. Task Force was the Gary Cooper and Walter Brennan movie I was trying to remember the name of in the previous video. But anyway, so views prior to dying, and therefore also not destroying the generator, he told Vader, we're nearly there, about to destroy it, you can land. The timeline makes no sense, because then Vader's not only there, he's entering the base, like minutes later. Where'd he come from? In theory, he should be treated like the general was not. He's up on the Star Destroyer. He isn't coming anywhere near that battle until it's done, because he is far too important. Yeah, he's powerful, but he's still very important. You would protect him. So he shouldn't even, maybe he's in a shuttle, but it's still that means that he left the strength of the Star Destroyer to be in a vulnerable shuttle on a planet that is home to your enemy. And your enemy does have fighter craft. No, he's not on that shuttle. He is not on the planet. He's in the Star Destroyer. That's where he should be. So he's like, boom, there already, and right on the Rebel base's doorstep. This makes no sense. He shouldn't be there that fast. There being shuttles with stormtroopers to enter the base rapidly. That makes sense, because they should have come down with the AT-ATs. But nope. Not Vader. Not Vader. He shouldn't be there yet. There's also, technically, he shouldn't even be there until it is mopped up. Even. It's like that's how late he should be arriving there. I get the whole, you want him seeing the Falcon fly away. I get that. But it still is, realistically, he should be there much later, even just because of when the call was made. Plus, we have no reason to believe that the shield is down. None at all, because it's not stated that happened. We see it in the movie, but we also don't see Vios being killed, so that's just completely changed there. But it's like, there's no reason to believe the shield is not down. The damage to the base is explained in a previous chapter. It's just from the AT-ATs walking. They are so heavy that every time they hit the ground, which there's also a problem here, but it did occur to me in the previous chapter, I just didn't mention it, that it's the shock of that's actually destroying the base, not the fire coming in. Hoth is a snow-covered planet. Snow is not necessarily dense. I'm saying you would need a substantial amount of ice underneath the walker as you're going, but if there's a snow on top of it, you don't necessarily know how deep. It is one of those things you technically could have that as the walkers are going, some of them are actually like slipping and falling. Like having a leg suddenly fall in that now they need to retract and move. Which, going back to the previous chapter, the whole Luke thought of the harpoon gun, which is nonsense. And I complained, why is he the only thing about this? You have a Wedge, who is named. He could also think of stuff. Hobby as well is wedged. Is named. He could think of stuff. One of them could be a shoot the ground. Because if it's snow and ice, you're using weapons that produce heat. Melt it. Now, Walker goes, whoop. I mean, it is a very poorly written battle. Because there's so many resources that they introduce and then fail to use. Introduce, fail to deal with. The ion can, fail to use ion can, fail to deal with shield generator. They just have cinematic solution. Well, actually no, I take it back. The harpoon gun is not a cinematic solution. Not compared to we're gonna shoot the ground so it falls. I mean, true, it is more stressful, but it still is. You can have the AT-ATs doing something because you're not gonna be able to get all their feet down. It's like you might only get the front two, so it's gonna collapse down partially, not completely. So have it start coming up. And it's also, you should have ground troops. You should have TIE fighters coming. There's so many things you could do to make this such an epic battle, and none of it. And you get something that's silly, inconsistent, incoherent. And incoherent as in interfering with each other, not incoherent like this doesn't make any sense. But interfering with each other. Not going like this, but going like that. The Millennium Falcon is described as having ion engines, which... Okay, that makes sense. They should be more versatile than what was described as it having, and all ships having, in A New Hope. But it still is you stated that they have these anti-grav drives, not ion drives, and now suddenly, nope, it's ion drives. There's another thing, I didn't make a note of this here, and it's one of those, yeah, this is dumb. It describes that when they turn on the engines, now true, they're going full throttle, but it still is, once they do that, they're melting the ice in the base behind them, and everyone else, so like if there was a stormtrooper behind the Millennium Falcon, when they turn on the engines, they're melted too, blown back and melted, so it's like, how are they planning to get the Falcon out to begin with? I mean, if it's gonna melt your base, that's a problem. How are the other ships in the base? Were they in the base? Were they keeping the X-Wings outside the entire time? Were they keeping the transport ships out the entire time? I mean, it's like, you have these problems here. And this is that kind of inconsistency and incoherency that I'm referring to. Because it's like, if it melted the base, you couldn't have the ship in there, so why is it in there? How did it get in there? Because it also would have been melting some when it landed. I mean... But as I said, the ion engine makes more sense because the anti-grav drive, it is explicitly stated in the first book, in the first story, that it works by repelling against gravity. So if there isn't a gravitational body nearby, it's useless. But the counter, or the complement to that, was the lightspeed drive only works outside of gravity. So it's like one works in one area, one works in the other, and there isn't necessarily much overlap. So it's like ion drive solves that problem as far as, yes, even when there's no gravitational body around, that will work. But anyway. So Vader is in the base. Falcon has escaped. Admiral Piet comes down. Why the hell he comes down? I don't know. He's an admiral. He should be, being an admiral on his ship. He comes down, and he reports that they've destroyed 17 rebel ships. Okay. Unknown number escaped. I get he was just a captain. All right, this is literally his first day, even first hour. No, it actually hours. Why am I suddenly dark like that? Hang on. Can you figure that out? You're figuring it out. Okay, it's like starting to adjust it. Anyway, I guess I leaned back and that threw it all off. Anyhow. It does actually describe that Leia has been in the command center for hours, so potentially this battle has lasted for hours. But that's not exactly clear, to be honest. At least I didn't find it clear. But in any case, this is a lousy blockade. I mean, it's like, okay, some escaped. It's not a great blockade, but it's like, okay, you stopped some. But I don't know how many got out. It's like, the hell kind of blockade is this? How How do you not track that? You have 5 ships. 6 initially, but 1 the ion cannon destroyed. We don't know about it, how many others were destroyed by that thing. Right? Because, again, they forgot about the ion cannon. Just, boop, it's gone. These 5 ships, for one thing, can't manage a good enough blockade to stop an unknown number of ships from escaping. But they can't count. They can't count. You know, maybe it just is like that to explain why ragtag rebels are able to defeat the Empire, the Imperial military in various battles. Because apparently they're just really incompetent. Okay, so the Falcon escape. And you've got, like, in the movie, Star Destroyer going this way, 2 more going this way, with the Falcon in the middle, right? And the Falcon dives, so now they go like that and actually collide. And it describes that one of them is the Avenger, which is apparently a Class 2, I looked this up, a Class 2 Star Destroyer, so it is a Star Destroyer, but bigger. Because it describes like the other 2 are disabled. It's not. Its damage would be lessened. I can understand and agree with that, but it's still going to be damaged. I'm sorry. Do you not understand how things hitting each other work? Anyway, that's not my criticism here. Because, like, fine, the damage is minimal. We can keep going with it. But why is it like the Falcon dives? Oh no, we're on a collision course. You were on a collision course beforehand, okay? You were already 2 ships going towards one to try to hit the thing in the middle. You were already doing that. It doesn't matter if the Falcon was there or not. You're already on a collision course. The rebels are competent. They're still idiots, but they're well. Actually, I can't even say they're competent because it's like we're not really seeing much competency here. Because they're using snow speeders when they could be using X-wings and such that could be more effective. Could at least be dealing with TIE fighters that are to make sure they're not coming down. It's like so many ways it could be better, but it's cinematic, but it still is the whole. I'm just imagining so many people could just be sitting in the theater watching this. Like maybe it's dads and moms who brought their kids to watch and just being like, well, obviously you were going to crash. You were flying straight at each other. Why would you do that? And the kid just going, shh, watching it. What are you? Anyway. Something else I noticed, because it's a point in A New Hope, in the book and in the movie, when they're trying to escape Tatooine. Han is having to make these calculations, and he is having to make, it's not just the computer, he's punching things in, he's doing that, Chewbacca is piloting, and Luke's like, why can't we just go into light speed? Why can't we just do this? It's like, we gotta do the calculation, you don't want to bounce off a supernova. Actually, no, I think it was bounce off a black holes, what the line is in the book, it's supernova in the movie. Anyway. Now, in this is one of those things where, in a movie, I understand you're just going quick, book, you can spend more time. None of that. There's no mention of even light speed calculations. It's just hit it. That didn't work. Hit it again. Still doesn't work. Let me put it like this. Something I do when I write, that I do consider it a positive for me. But I do also understand there are issues with doing it this way. Basically, every book I've published so far, and to be clear, it's self-publishing, every one is a first draft. I edit it, so I get it to a final form, yes, but technically it is all one draft that I wrote and then went back in and improved, right? I have yet to, for any book that I've self-published, finish writing it and then decide I'm going to start over and go from there. I have started over. I think I mentioned that in one of the previous videos. I have started over books, but that's like, I think the furthest I gotten was, I think I may have done like 4, no, it should have been less than that. I think that there was one book that I went like 4 chapters, and then I stopped because I wasn't liking how that was going and just restarted the entire thing. But that's 4 chapters. I don't even count that as a draft, so it's still to me a first draft. This feels like it was a first draft that was based off of notes. There's more so notes that were filled out a little bit, not filled out completely, and then they just ran with it. And it's very disappointing. And I get the whole, yes, these would have been based on notes Lucas provided, because it actually, because it is described. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back by Donald F. Glut. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but based on a story by George Lucas. So Lucas would have provided at minimum notes, potentially like points for what the story is, potentially filling out some more stuff. But it's like this battle very much feels like it's just based off of notes. It's not specific points, and not all right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it a battle. I'm going to make it a story here. And it's very disappointing because you can do that. It's I can't speak to whether it's hard or not. I really can't. I don't have with what I tend to write. I manage to achieve a flow, and it just goes. So it's like to me, a lot of the stuff is easy, but that's what I've written thus far, and that's how it is for me. Other people, they can labor over single sentences, single words. It's like, that's a different style. And there was also going to be very different, and we'll show that. I mean, but this, it's just, I can't imagine ever writing something and having this many plot holes. Because plot holes disrupt the flow, and it's also when I go back and edit, I notice them and then I fix them. So, I mean, it's just, it is wildly disappointing. And I hope it gets better. And it might, because it's a battle, so that's going to be cinematic, so it might be more of a, make sure it reflects what we will do in the movie. Like, here's a storyboard for what we're doing in the movie. Just make sure you cover that. Can I expand on it? No. It's entirely possible that happened. That they don't want, basically the movie is the main property, the book is something else. Which that was actually one thing that I found funny, a conversation having with my family. The whole, like, they didn't understand that the novels were first. A New Hope came out, Star Wars, because that was the original title. The novel came out before the movie. And so did this. I'm not sure how connected this was to production. Because, I mean, depending on how long it takes for a book to be written, edited, you figure out the publishing aspect to it, as far as like the physical printing and all that, distribution. Even though this actually released, I want to say, a few months ahead of the movie, and I don't know how long the movie necessarily took, but I could believe that the book was basically written still at pre-production. Which is one reason why, like for A New Hope, there are things in there where it's like, supposedly that's an ad-lib, but it's in here, this predates the movie, so... And you likely would not have already had that scene figured out, because then there's other things, why wouldn't you fix that? And now I actually am a little curious. Because there's one, the very famous ad-lib for Empire. I have no idea where it's going to be in here, though. Okay, no, it's still later, I think. Not that late. But the I know line, I'm just trying to see if I can... Okay, it should be near here. Yeah, so in this it's not I know. Well, also her line is different. I know I'm skipping ahead, but we know this scene. I love you, she said softly. I couldn't tell you before, but it's true. So this is something that they do more build up in the book than in the movie. That her side of it. He smiled his familiar cocky smile. Just remember that, because I'll be back. Then his face grew tender and he kissed her gently on the forehead. It's also the order of things is a little different, because then he goes and it is frozen in carbonite, whereas in the movie, as I recall, he's already standing on the platform, then they just drop him and do it. But obviously in the movie, it's I love you and I know. And that's an ad-lib. It isn't in here. It's better than what's in here. So it is one of those, yeah, this was written prior to at least that scene in the movie. Potentially during pre-production even, so that could explain some of it, but it's it is disappointing to me, the idea that, assuming that the author wanted to and could have built out this battle to remove all those issues I'm having with it. It's possible it was told, no, you can't do that. We need it to match the movie because the movie is the main thing. And I get, major plot points. I get that aligning, but I mean, legitimately, this battle, you could probably have done so much better. You probably write that so much better and just, it wouldn't conflict. It would just be expanded on. So, yeah. At some point, I do have the idea with the Catherine verse stuff. I do want to try to do a war story in that at some point. So some of the stuff I will have to deal with. But I'm going to do my best to make sure it's better than this. Because I'm very serious here. It is tremendously disappointing to me. It is very, very poorly written. Yeah. I wish that wasn't the case. Both because I wish it were better, always. But also the whole... I don't even know if anyone's watching these, but the whole, I could believe some people being like, well, what do you know? Star Wars is really famous. What, it's like, who reads your books? It's like, you're right. Nobody reads my books. That doesn't mean that my criticism is invalid. And it's not like I'm saying this because being critical is it's somehow a good thing, somehow positive. It's not like it's helping my ego. I'm doing this for fun. It's like, I don't have an ego with this. I am doing this for fun. And it is like, yeah, this is weak, and I will stand by that. If you want to disagree with me, that's fine. Buy the book. I keep a link to it on Barnes & Noble in the description. Buy it, do your own videos. Read it, do your own videos. That's awesome. I would love that. That would be amazing. It's like I'm one idiot on the internet there's room for plenty more, so I mean, come on. But it is, and it's not even like, I also don't like the idea of, somebody definitely spent a lot of time writing it, and you don't really like bagging on somebody. You don't really like criticizing somebody and saying it was a poor job, but at the same time, it is. I'm not going to lie about that. And it's also only through that criticism can I get better. And if anybody, because I doubt it, but maybe there will be somebody out there that watches these videos because, like, Star Wars, they're interested in writing their own stories or seeing this, and maybe they, Reddit didn't notice some of the points that I'm making. Maybe they did know some, but wasn't sure if they're alone at that time. You're not alone. It has got problems. So, anyway. It's going to be very interesting when I get to some other stories, too. I mean, obviously, I'm going to finish off this trilogy. I got the prequel trilogy over there. And then what I do after that, it'll be interesting to see Chris. And I'm also very interested to see how the prequels go. And really I'm so interested in seeing how this turns out. All right. I know I've already gone quite long. But yeah, so this, hopefully it can improve. Let me be clear. It can definitely improve. It might just be that the author is not good at battle scenes, but might be great at more of the drama that we will have in the middle, especially like Dagobah. Maybe that will be fantastic. I hope so. That would be awesome. I want it to be great. Maybe it's just a weakness here. I know I got weaknesses. Maybe that's his. Anyway. See you next time.